I'm just practicing getting ready for I know. All right, let me put my weapon away. Hi guys. We have a minute before I'll take off, but yeah. It's Friday. Friday. And Friday at this time is the Tamriel Storyteller Hour with me, Flower Child 567, and we're back here. So you know what I'm going to do? I am going to light the candles and open the doors and take out the apocryphal tome and open it. Oh yeah. All right. Now we're ready to begin. So let me do a couple little things. I already got you with glimmer dust. So maybe I'll do this. Yeah, there you go. That's a welcome to all of you tuning in. And yeah, let me see. What else can I do that you're not expecting me to do? Oh, I better do this. I better do this. Here we go. Let's open up the tombs that I'm going to be reading today, the lore that I'm going to be reading today, because it's pretty intense stuff. Oh yeah, it is. And we're continuing our readings with the Daedra and some Daedra, but mostly Daedra. And let me also do one other thing. Let me give you a sweet roll to munch on. Look at that. I'm going to eat something too. So good. And let me take off that chatter, because we don't want that chatter on my screen. Did you get your sweet roll? Come on. Eat your sweet roll. This is Dibella's sweet roll. Oh, and it's so nice, Dibella's. Oh, come on, have some more. Yep, that's it. Please. Oh, yeah. I hope you're all having a wonderful Friday. Hey, Braveheart, nice to see you. Hope you're having a wonderful Friday. And, boy, this sweet roll's so good. I think I could probably eat... Oh, they're gone. I hope you got one, because if you didn't, your loss. So, anyways. All right, let's take a look. We're continuing. This is the Daedra Part 2. I'm going into the journal. I could run over to where all the lore books are and open them up. But today, I'm going to go into the lore library and go down to the Daedric Princes folder, which I don't know if you saw. It's in Shalador's library. So I'm going to go down to the Daedric Princes. We've been reading quite a number of them. We finished at Modern Heretics last week. I don't know if you remember, but we did. Let's see what this one is. This one is Opusuchus, Lamae Ball ta Mezzamortie, a brief account of Lamae Ball and the Restless Death. This was written by Mabe Awinil Scribe, translation by University of Gwymlyn Press, the Second Era, 105. Here we go. Are you ready? Let's do it. As brighter grows light, darker becomes shadow. So it passed that the Daedra Moloch Baal looked on Arche, and thought the Daedra prideful of his dominion over the death of man and myrrh. And it was sooth. Baal, whose sphere is the wanton oppression and entrapment of mortal souls, sought to thwart Arche, who knew that not man, nor mere, nor beast folk of all Nirn could escape eventual death. The Daedra was doubtless of his sphere, and so Moloch Baal set upon Nirn to best death. Hey Oxygen, good to see you. Tamriel was still young and filled with danger and wondrous magic when Baal walked in the aspect of a man and took a version. Lamae, Belfog, from the Nedic people or Nedic peoples. Savage and loveless, Baal profaned her body, and her screams became the shrieking winds which still haunt certain winding fords of Skyrim. Shedding a lone droplet of blood on her brow, Baal left Nirn, having sown his wrath. Violated and comatose, Lamae was found by nomads and cared for. A fortnight hence, the normal, weird woman enshrouded Lamae in pall, for she had passed into death. In their way, the nomads built a bonfire to immolate the husk. That night, Lamae rose from her funeral pyre and set upon the coven still aflame. She ripped the throats of the women, ate the eyes of the children, and raped their men as cruelly as Baal had raped her. And so Lamae, who is known to us as Blood Matron, imprecated her foul aspect upon the folk of Tamriel, and begot a brood of countless abominations, from which came the vampires, most cunning of night horrors. And so was the scourge of undeath wrought upon Tamriel, cruelly mocking Arche's rhythm of life and death through all the coming eras of the Et Ada. And for all his sadness, Arche knew this could not be undone. So this is really kind of a sad lore, because it's about rape, number one, and how the spirit of the raped woman who died from it, from the ravagement, became the mother of the vampires. So if you're a vampire, if you're out there and you're playing as a vampire, you need to know this story, and because this is your origin here in Iso. Pretty interesting, isn't it? All right. The Dreamstride. For over 1,000 years, the priests of Vermilion have been masters of the art of alchemy. The complexity and potency of their mixtures are nothing short of legendary. These alchemical treasures are so highly sought after that a single draught showing up on the black market can command sums in the tens of thousands. Of the numerous potions that have surfaced to date, Vermina's torpor is perhaps the most impressive. A single sip of this vicious liquid places the imbiber in a state known as the Dreamstride. This condition allows the subject to experience the dreams of another as if he is actually there. The subject becomes an integral part of the dream, and to any other entities in this dream state, the subject will be mistaken for the dreamer. The subject will even find his mannerisms, speech patterns, and knowledge expanded appropriately. To an observer, after the subject has imbibed the potion, he will appear to vanish. As the subject traverses distances within the dream, he will also traverse distances in the actual world. And when the torpor's effect has expired, the subject will fade back into reality in the exact location projected within the Dreamstride. Some Dreamstrides have transported their subjects a few feet, and some have appeared thousands of miles from their origin in a matter of minutes. It's worth noting that the Dreamstride is highly dangerous and presents the subject with numerous pitfalls. In certain dreams, subjects have been exposed to life-threatening scenarios such as sicknesses, violence, and even death. In most cases, the subject simply fades back to our world without harm. But in some instances, the subject never reappears and is assumed to have expired. In other instances, the subject reappears deceased. It's also quite possible that the subject could reappear in a precarious or hazardous location in reality, even when that location appeared safe within the Dreamstride. Vermina's torpor is as mysterious and elusive as the priests who created it. It's unknown whether this unique transport mechanism is a result of the torpor itself or simply the odd machinations of Vermina, with the potential for using the Dreamstride to penetrate seemingly impassable obstacles certainly outweighs its mysterious nature. Well, there you have it, my magical alchemist friends. That's a pretty interesting tale, and that is perhaps the most dangerous of all the potions in our world. So, hi, Ciara and Crossthread. Nice to have you here today. We are continuing part 2 of the Daedra and Daedra. Okay, the House of Troubles. Among the ancient ancestral spirits who accompanied Saint Veloth and the Chimer into the promised land of Morrowind, the 4 Daedra lords, Malakath, Mehrunes Dagon, Moloch Baal, and Sheogorath, are known as the 4 corners of the House of Troubles. These Daedra lords rebelled against the council and admonition of the tribunal, causing great kinstrife and confusion among the clans and great houses. Malakath, Mehrunes Dagon, Moloch Baal, and Sheogorath are holy in that they serve the role of obstacles during the testing. Through time, they have sometimes become associated with local enemies like the Nords, the Akaviri, or the mountain orcs. Malakath is the reanimated dung that was Trinamak. Malakath is a weak but vengeful god. The Dark Elves say he is Malak, the god king of the orcs. He tests the Dunmer for physical weakness. Moloch Baal is, in Morrowind, the lord of brutality. He tries to upset the bloodlines of great houses and otherwise ruins the Dunmer bloodline. A race of monsters said to live in Molag Amur are the result of his seduction of Vivek during the previous era. Sheogorath is the king of madness. He always tests the Dunmer for mental weakness. In many legends, he is called upon by one Dunmer faction against another. And in half of these stories, he does not betray those who called him, further confusing the issue of his place in the scheme of things. Can he help us? Is he not an obstacle? He is often associated with the fear other races have of the Dunmer, especially those who, like the Empire, might prove as useful allies. Mehrunes Dagon is the god of destruction. He is associated with natural dangers like fire, earthquakes, and floods. To some, he represents the inhospitable land of Morrowind. He tests the Dunmer will to survive and persevere. The worship of these four malevolent spirits is against the law and practice of the temple. However, the Four Corners seldom fail to discover those greedy, reckless, or mad enough to serve them. By ancient temple law and custom, and also by the imperial law, the lives of witches and warlocks are forfeit. Imperial garrisons join ordinators and buoyant armigers of the temple in tracking down and destroying these foul covens in the wilderness refuge and ancient ruins where they conceal their profane worship. That's pretty serious stuff, wouldn't you agree? Hey, Eldritch Girl. Hey, Sasquatch. Nice to see you guys. All right, let's look at the spawn of Molag Bal. Molag Bal enslaves. Molag Bal defiles. Molag Bal spawns children with the unwilling and harvests the souls of the unwary. Legend tells us that Molag Bal is the father of the first vampire, though we cannot fully detail the many species of vampire. We may consider all of them to be his offspring. Most vampires can trace their lineage to the same distant ancestor, an unwilling Nedic virgin whom Molag Bal defiled. With her, he spawned a race of monsters who then set upon nomads, spreading his corruption further. Other species of vampires are the results of pacts and bargains with Molag Bal, who answers promises of immortality and power with an eternity of damnation. Molag Bal seeds chaos and strife, spreading discord by the corrupting soul after soul. His forces are legion. His patience is limitless. His ultimate goal is the domination and enslavement of all living things. Now, I think next week I'm going to look at the vampire lore, since we're looking at the mother and father of the vampires. Yeah, I think that would be this is like a prelude into that. The Totems of Hircine. Among those of us to whom Lord Hircine bestowed his most precious gift of lycanthropy, there are legends that he also set into the world, specific artifacts of his power. They date to a period when men could neither write, nor speak, nor barely think, but the powers of blood of the beast were yet flowing strong among the selected. The first, a carved skull of the wolf itself, used by those ancient shamans In the blood ceremonies that created our lineage, it is said to grant a great presence to those who prostrate themselves. Oh, I said the wrong word. To those who prostrate themselves before it, such that those who witness their forms cower in a terror unknown, except to those who have glimpsed the face of Hircine himself. The second, a high bone carved as a skull, but from some animal unknown, used as some form of medicinal wand in the more ancient brotherhood. It was said to grant a kind of heightened awareness, both in sight and smell, such as the prey could never flee too far from our senses. The third, a simple drum, its mundane appearance meaning it is most likely lost to the mists of long ago time. As our fathers would beat time to summon their brethren from the fields, so too would our forebears in the blood call their allies to them with its pounding. And through these totems we channel and focus our energies of the beast, while werewolves give us the powers of magic known to men. We can tap into a more direct natural energy at times, and through these totems discover the abilities that first tamed the world before world-wrought civilization sullied it. Well, and after we do vampires, I think we shall have to do werewolves, because Hircine is the father of the werewolves, right? So that's quite interesting. So we've come across in our Daedric princes lore the origin of the monsters known as vampires and werewolves. Two major lines here. All right, so I thought, hey Warrior Robert, good to see you. It's been a bit. Hey Supreme Goddess, hello, 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 hello. All right, so I'm going to go up to the lore on Daedric Cults, okay? Daedric Cults. A dance along the webs. My sisters, as I write, an intangible future descends upon Resden. False light obscures the conviction we once shared. I pray this missive finds you cocooned in the shell of will and spirit, despite the news it carries. Our fate, once an intricately woven tapestry of divine and mortal existences, being unraveled by a new force as inexorable as the march of the make-way gods. The concurrent three, Al-Sim-V, a mere cult once but a flicker in our collective consciousness, has ignited in a blaze of glory and zeal. They are a consuming fire upon our world, and my sisters, I fear they are inevitable. These zealots hail not one, not two, but three newly ascended entities, a triumvirate cloaked in the robes of divinity. Their rise is fueled not by the fateful dance of faith and love, but by the mechanistic gears of manipulation and force. They hope we shall remain blind to it. Their will exerts itself like a black void, an inescapable pull towards a future where our goddesses are mere anticipations, and their adherents are systematically snuffing out the shapes of our kin, obliterating our ephemeral signatures from the grand tapestry of existence. This insidious drama is played out behind the sheen of politicking and deceit, their actions obscured from the eye of Boethiah. They are false, and yet they prove difficult to deny. These so-called anticipations, our spiritual anchors unfailing, have guided our voyages for as long as memory exists. The thought of a resident devoid of their foundational virtues is inconceivable, a thing unable to pass for the sake of what is and will be. I beseech you, Resdinia, the fate-bound hymns of the three sisters must not be forgotten. We must rally our kin and stand against this faith-invasive force. We must preserve the ancestral harmonies of the sake of our children yet to be born. I implore you to cloak yourself in cherished nostalgia. Share these revelations only with those loyalty is certain. This dance must remain a secret kept under a shroud of silence. And since those who dare to raise their voices are swiftly consumed by the black hole of as yet oblivion, in these interminable times we must challenge the cunning of Mephala, the ferocity of Boethiah, and the wisdom of Azura. Let their blessed teachings be our guiding star, our protective shell, and our eternal sustenance. May the sisters guide your journey and cast their darkened light upon your path during these falsified cycles. Stay strong, my kin, until the threads converge upon us once more. There we will meet again as ourselves no longer in need of false skins and shadows. So, yes, there we have it. There we have it. Let's see, what is a deal is struck? This is just a letter, right? Yes, it's about the Prince of Change. A final appeal. This is also a letter. A memory book, part 1. Let's read that. What does it have to say? As dictated to Tutor Reparius by Fa Nuatin. Ah, my baron who moves like light glittering through crystal. I like that imagery. That's pretty. What can I recall about him before his memory slips away? He was tall, but they're all tall to one who adopts stature of a Bosmer. I had good reasons for doing that, and I can almost remember them. Something about being nimble and making a smaller target. But remembering light through crystal, you see how it goes, Tutor. I'm so easily distracted, I need your cool words to flow through me, a rippling current to bring me back to focus. Focus! That's the word exactly. Light through crystal was all about focus. It was his reason for being. In battle he moved from point to point, almost instantaneously, scintillating from front to flank to other flank, his attacks flashing out like Melando rays. I remember him when we fought the 5 recalcitrants, how he glowed with valiance and ferocity. Shields shattered like glass, and the ground was littered with fangs and antlers. And we were triumphant. I never want to lose that day, Tutor. Place it carefully in the reservoir of recollection that I may relive it whenever I need to. And here's, we don't have a memory book part 2, but we have a memory book part 3. As dictated to Tutor Reparius by Fa Nuatin. I have an idea, my Tutor. We shall try something different to remember the Baron who moves like wind in the reeds. We shall reconstruct him by pure logic. Wind, air movement, amphorious but persistent, varying in vector, pressing from every point of the compass, strong, then soft, then strong again. Reeds, tall, drying grass stalks, foundations of literature, rattling and swaying, bending before pressure, or vibrating in tones if constrained. Baron, a figure of mastery, a person who made for warfare, an aspect of myself that concentrates a body of skill into a skilled body, an incarnation of artistry. Therefore, the Baron who moves like wind in the reeds, we know his components, thus we must remember him complete in totality and see him clearly before us. We must! No, it doesn't work like that. What shall I do, my tutor? What was it you said about being reminded of what is within by someone who is without? What was that? Reparius? Say it again. Well, these aren't giving us a lot of information about the Daedric cults, right? Apocrypha. The infinite archives of Mezzamortie are the ultimate treasure. Its innumerable shelves and countless books carry the weight of all knowledge. Therein, the diligent reader can find all that was, all that is, and all that will be. Followers of the divines, content in their dark cloisters of ignorance, preach hatred of the golden eye. Daedra, they call him, unclean, monstrous, wicked. We have seen the truth. Knowledge is only as wicked as the one who wields it. Forsaking learning in fear of its misuse is the ultimate sin. It is an unforgivable folly. As a result, mortals have suffered countless centuries of loss. Oh, my dear listeners, pray tell, what is sin? I do not know what sin is. That is an unknown concept to me, a high elf. In Apocrypha, the golden eye weeps gold tears at this plague of ignorance. Those who walk his walls are truly blessed. Even as their flesh falls away, they are permitted to browse the infinite tomes and scrolls privy to all mysteries that have ever and will ever exist. It is the most blessed of fates. We give you praise, Her Mezzamortie. We seek enlightenment, illumination, and a place at your side. All right, that's a Daedric cult right there. Bisensel, our ancient roots, by Scholastica Incognitus. Herma mora pado eda oi nagaya Abba agia kava apakra dina goria gandra arcane. I don't know what language that is, man. As everyone in our society knows, the roots of our order are ancient and deep. For are we not the primeval seekers? Having spent a season researching ancient manuscripts on Balfira Island and in the Daggerfall Mages Guild, I can finally provide some details about our hallowed halls of meeting. Put some meat on the bones, as it were. All right, so this is what? Daggerfall Covenant, the blue lore, Daedric worship. I can now reveal that the original name of our private Ayleid sanctum beneath Halcyon Lake was Bisensel, which meant new water halls in the tongue of the wild elves. It was built by a clan of Ayleids who fled the anti-elven pogroms in Cyrodiil during the early First Era after the slave uprising of the so-called Saint Alicia. The clan that built Bisensel came from the heartland city of Ninalata, which, like most Ayleid habitations, was built partly above and partly beneath the surface of the land. And this plan was copied in a miniature when the refugee elves built Bisensel, though now only the subterranean halls survive intact. The ruler of this elven clan was named Laloriran Dinar, though he is far better known by the sobriquet last king of the Ayleids. We know that one. I have the book. He was a noble tactician and general, and you have almost certainly heard of him in connection with the great high rock victory of the Battle of Glenumbra Moors, in which the invading Elysian horde was broken and turned back to Cyrodiil. Possibly the most fascinating fact turned up in my researches, at least for us of the primeval seekers, is that the use of this site for the worship of Hermaeus Mora actually began many of thousands of years ago, when it was still occupied by the Ayleids. The leader of this effort was a wild elf scholar known as High Priest Uluscant, who established a congregation in Bisensel that attracted many of the learned and influential people in the community. As their numbers became more numerous on their behalf, Uluscant maybe quite reasonably requested more of a say in municipal affairs, a request that was unfairly denied by King Dinar. The ruler had no interest in sharing power with the non-military order of scholars, whom he foolishly thought he could insult with impunity. Well, this Dinar soon learned that the servants of Hermaeus Mora are not so easily shunted aside. Within a few months of his arrogant rebuff, his last king of Ayleids was disposed. He and his family fled to Belphyria, where he begged refuge of the Dirini, whom he served for the rest of his days as a sort of trained war dog. As history teaches us, the primeval seekers always went out in time. It's an ancient Analects say, if knowledge is power, then forbidden knowledge is ultimate power. Now, I've heard it said, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So that's kind of interesting. Those two go hand in hand, don't they? For the desire to know is beyond reckoning, and recompense, whatever price is named, shall be met. Herma mora altadun pod home, Likan I. Michael. Yeah, for sure. Here's Bloodthorn Orders. It's just from a quest, and Bloodthorn Orders quest. Oh, we read this one, I think. Boethiah, when we looked at hers. So I'm not going to read it again. Or maybe I will. I don't think I read this one. Let's read it. Boethiah and Her Avatars. Boethiah, the Daedric prince of deceit and conspiracy, utilizes avatars to impose her will upon the world. These avatars, always tricky and often unpredictable, can appear as male or female, dark elves or some other race. They usually insert themselves into important or momentous events, working behind the scenes to drive such events to a conclusion that serves the will of their secretive master. Avatars of Boethiah often issue challenges and trials intended to test the mettle of worthy heroes and common folk alike. Their motivation is never clearly stated and usually obfuscated, but are always assumed to be a part, either small or large, of the greater machinations of their master. And when these challenges and trials come to an end, usually when the task assigned by the masked avatar is accomplished, it is common for the avatar to disappear without a trace, and these often lead to mysterious stories, strange legends, or at the very least a level of confusion among those who participated in the challenge. Interesting that all of a sudden we have the introduction of the concept of avatars. This has not existed in any other lore book. So today we've had two strange words come into play that are not found in the philosophy or belief systems here in Elderscrolls Online or Tamriel, which is sin and now avatars. Interesting. Boethias, we read last week. This is her glory. Look upon the face of Boethia and wonder. Raise your arms that Boethia may look on them and bestow a blessing. Know that battle is just such a blessing. Know that death is inevitable. Know that you are dust in the eyes of Boethia. Long is the arm of Boethia and swift is the blade. Deep is the cut and subtle is the poison. Worship, O faithful, pray your death is short. Worship, O faithful, pray your death is quiet. Worship, O faithful, worship the glory that is Boethia. Into battle strides the Daedric prince, blade at the ready to cleave the unworthy. All right, that is definitely a Daedric cult. Now this one is going to be interesting. How is everybody out there? Hi, Alone in the Dark. Hi, you guys. We're going to look at the Daedra Dossier, the Titans. This is going to be interesting. This was written by Gorath, the Dread Archivist. I have compiled this account at the request of Korois, the Greater Titan, who was peeved to find that the Library of Dust contained nothing at all related to the origins of our most imposing Cold Harbor residence. Therefore, let the tale be told, and it is fitting that this be done, for in our Lord and Master's upcoming Plainmeld campaign, the Titans will be released for the first time upon the hated mortals of Tamriel, and fear and doom shall follow in their footsteps. There are, or have been, or will be a race of beings upon Nirn called dragons, creatures of almost Daedra-like majesty. They naturally sought domination over the mortals of Nirn, and achieved a measure of success therein. But upon a time that was, and will be, the ever pernicious, mortals of Tamriel betrayed these, their natural masters, and those who were not slain were driven into hidden refuge. Then one such dragon, a greater dove, named Bozik Kodastrun, exerted his nigh divine will in an attempt to fly beyond the borders of the Mundus. Though he did not succeed, his effort was valorous and remarkable, and impinged upon the attention of Malik Bal himself. Our Lord and Master noted this feat of will force, considered that the race of Dove had achieved dominion over much of Nirn, and thus spake unto this Boziko Dastrun, offering him a place of honor and privileged in his domain of Cold Harbor. And the dragon, his resources all but spent by his efforts, did accept and agree. So Moloch Baal opened a window between worlds to allow the dragons to pass into our Lord's realm, where Bozikodostron was granted the privilege of being bound in chains of gold, ebon, iron, and set in a place of honor in the nethermost depths of the Tower of Lies. For our Lord and Master desired to know the secrets of the dragon's dominance over the mortals of Nirn. Long was the dragon tortured and interrogated, but the dragon was haughty and indignant at his ill treatment, and no matter what torments were brought to bear, the intransigent Bozika Godstrong, I refused to utter so much as a single syllable in his abrasive language to reveal the secrets of the Dove. Now you realize this dragon's name is dragon language. And this isn't aside from the lore, but you all know that every time you go make a glyph, right? a magical glyph to use. You are reciting dragon language. That's dragon speak. Okay, vexed by this obstinate defiance, and rightly so, our lord and master at length waxed wroth, and avenged himself upon Boethias by slow consumption of the flesh from his bones, yea, every gobbet. Then Moloch Ball regarded the skeleton of the dove and laughed. If I cannot have the secrets of the dragons, he thundered, then I shall make dragons of my own, dragons even mightier than those of Nirn. He ordered the skeleton taken to the vile laboratory, where it was infused with the blood of darkness that reawakened it as a vestige. And during this process, Moloch Ball ordered that the skeleton be somewhat adjusted and improved to a plan of his own devising, forming a bone frame even mightier than that of its forebears. Then it was plunged into the deepest pool in the azure chasm, there to absorb the blue liquid essence that would give our Lord's new servant its body, brain, and brawn. And within a nano-eon, a mighty creature drew itself from the chasm plasm and shook itself free of primordial slime. And in response to the summons of our mutual Lord and Master, it ascended to the plateau and bounded nimbly up the endless stairs, and the first of the Daedric Titans was among us. And from its very first performance in the grueling test of Felty, it was clear that this new morphotype would be a valuable addition to our Lord and Master's forces of dominion. Its strength was unparalleled, its savagery remarkable even among the war slaves of Moloch Ball, and its native intelligence was impressive, though perhaps not on the level of its forebears. Most fearsome of all is the Titan's ability to speak a spell of flaming essence drain that can deliberate an opponent with a single word. Theoretically, if the utterance were interpreted before completion, the spell would recoil upon its caster, but that eventuality is remote. All right, so there you have it. Now we know that all dragons are titans that came from the deepest, darkest realm, and that the skeleton titan dragon that we've all fought and battled in one way or another was created by Moloch Ball. And we also know that this titan is the one that perhaps brought to us the spell speak of enchantment of the glyphs. And you've also learned that the flaming essence drain is the most powerful glyph of all. Very interesting. I'm going to be doing definitely an episode on dragons. That'll include titans coming up. There's so much more. I'm coming to the end of my time. I could end with the Ayleids. Let's do that. But we have so many others to go through. I probably have one more episode of Daedric Cults. So let me end with this for today. Where did it go? Where did it go? Daedric Worship the Ayleids by Veratus of Elenhir. The reasons why the Daedra are rivaled and their worship forbidden among all the civilized races of Tamriel are well understood, and as this series of papers will show, are grounded in historical events. The opinions of the so-called academics who styles herself Lady Cinnabar notwithstanding, The evidence supporting my assertions is incontrovertible and generally accepted by all accredited scholars of antiquity. The Aldmeri, who had been first to begin organized worship of the Daedra, were also the first to venerate the Daedra lords. This probably began on a small scale among the Ayleids, those elves who left the Somerset Isles to create splinter cultures in central and southwest Tamriel. In some cases, specifically to evade the strictures of Aldmeri regulation, which forbade, among many of these things, the worship of Daedra. So I hope you all know by now, and if you don't, I'm going to point it out, that the Ayleids are the ancestors of the elves, of the high elves, and all the elves, the Aldmeri dominion, right? They are where they come from. So every one of the three alliances has a very old origin, and we've been looking at those. And so now this is for the elves. As Ayleid culture flourished, drawing ever further from Alinor in the last millennium of the Merithic era, Daedric worship took hold and spread among the Heartland High Elves. The Daedra were still widely revered, with probably a majority of the Ayleids continuing to pay them homage. But cults devoted to the various Daedric princes sprang up across Cyrodiil, tolerated and then celebrated. Unlike the Chimere, the Ayleids made no distinction between good and bad. And remember, the Chimere are what? The Dark Elves' origin. Daedra, indeed, even some of the more heinous princes received mass veneration, especially when their worship was adopted and endorsed by Ayleid kings and aristocrats. Widespread Daedra worship among the Heartland elves was particularly ill news for the tribes of Nedic humans who were then arriving in Tamriel. The Ayleids enslaved the immigrant tribes of men, at first occasionally, but then systematically, and the Nedic people found themselves subject to masters who, in many cases, worshipped the princes, including those who encouraged slavery, domination, and cruelty. Under the Ayleids, the human thralls found themselves the subject of such Daedra-inspired arts as flesh sculpture and gut gardening. In fact, the revulsion for the Daedra worship that pervades most human cultures in Tamriel probably originated in this period. The Elysian slave revolt of the early First Era was largely fueled by desperate rage against the Ayleids' Daedric-inspired cruelty. The Ayleid kings who allied themselves with the rebellion were largely Daedra worshippers, which in part explains why, once the Ayleids were overthrown, Queen Alicia incorporated the leading elven Daedra into the First Empire's worship of the 8 divines. Her new empire of Cyrodiil outlawed the worship of the Daedric princes, and Daedra-worshipping Ayleids were exterminated wherever they were found. Thus, by the middle of the First Era, large-scale Daedra worship was extinct in the central Tamriel, surviving only among the Chimere in the northeast of the continent, and among the Orcs, ever a pariah people who worshipped Malakath or Moloch as their god ancestor. Elsewhere, among men, mer, and beast peoples, Daedra worship survived only at the level of cults, which were more or less forbidden. Lady Cinnabar's assertions to the contrary are so much horsewash. This is where we're stopping for today. We'll pick up next week with the Daedra worship, the Chimere, and continue looking at the Daedric cult. So I want to turn to my viewers here. Hey Dream Soldier, it's going pretty darn good. Tight Side, Strong Onion, Indian Chief is down. Bull, I, Fendi, Russian Girl, Hey Supreme Goddess, was wondering if you play sometimes and not stream. Of course, I play every day. I'm off stream. Otherwise, it would get pretty tedious to always play and stream at the same time. You become kind of, I don't know, maybe shallow? Don't know. But anyways, yes, I play a lot off stream. In fact, to be honest and truthful, I prefer playing off stream, but I enjoy sharing too. All right, my friends, this is Flower Child 567, and the Tamriel Storyteller Hour comes to a close. Next week, I will do part 3, finishing up the Daedra with Daedric Cults. And then, later in the month, we'll begin to look at vampires and werewolves. And then I think after that, we're going to dive into the Dunmer and our sweet little wood elves, just in time for the Gold Road DLC to launch mid-June. All right, you guys. Oh, I'm happy to hear that, Supreme Goddess. She says, since coming to your Storyteller Friday, I am reading Lord now when I play. And that is incredibly awesome. That's just awesome. I think, ESO was developed on the lore, and everything's contingent upon the lore. Especially if you watched the 10th anniversary Amsterdam, where many of the developers talked about the beta and then the early years of ESO, as some of them called it, you would have heard multiple times that they considered the lore a very crucial aspect of playing Elder Scrolls Online. So it's my pleasure to share the lore with you. As a writer, I love reading. Okay, and this is dedicated to the writers, the developers, yes, of Elder Scrolls Online. Here's to the 10th anniversary. You all rock. And we thank you for giving to us such an incredible game. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Have a great rest of your Friday and a wonderful weekend. See you next week. Bye.